Hi, I'm Sunil Badami and welcome to Made in the West TV, where we wrap up another year of fantastic Western Sydney films and meet the talented winners of the 2018 Made in the West Film Festival. Western Sydney's emerging film scene is bustling with some fantastic young filmmakers eager to make their mark on the Australian film industry. Made in the West is a grassroots film festival that celebrates and showcases short films made featuring cast, crew and locations from my old stomping ground, Western Sydney. So thanks for joining us. You're watching Made in the West TV. Welcome to Made in the West TV. I'm Sunil Badami and I'm here with special guests and winners of the 2018 Made in the West Film Festival. Andrew Lee, winner of the Best in the West trophy for indie filmmakers, David Hoey, winner of the Best Student Film, and Matthew C Vella, winner of the Audience Choice Award. Congratulations to you all for your amazing wins.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Stoked.
Now, Andrew, can you tell us what it was like to win the top prize at the festival?
Oh, listen, I was extremely humbled and honoured for the award, and I thank the judges and especially the festival organisers because they really made it special that night, and for all the other filmmakers as well.
So how did they make it special for you? What was your experience like at the festival?
It's my second time there, and it's just whenever you go there, there's a real sense of community and real positivity and love and just appreciation for the filmmakers. So yeah, it's a film festival for the filmmakers.
So, David, what was it like for you to show, as a student filmmaker, you know, your film on a screen much bigger than Mum and Dad's?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy when you're sitting in your room editing it for however many weeks or months, for that matter. Just seeing it up on that screen around an audience where you first fell in love with films is pretty crazy, yeah.
So what's it like sitting in an audience full of people who are watching your labour of love for the first time? How does it feel?
Yeah, it's cool, like seeing how people react to certain things that maybe you didn't think were that funny or vice versa. It's just cool getting that live reaction. Now,
Matt, your trophy was awarded by popular vote on the night of the festival. How did that feel to win?
Oh man, I was over the moon. I was just stoked to get a good reaction. I went in a little bit frightened that people weren't even going to like the film because of like just the nature of it being a pretty crazy, whacked out comedy. But like very early on, we had a few laughs and I was like, everything's going to be okay. So that was the big win for me, getting the Audience Choice Award on top of that. That's just a bonus, man. So stoked.
Now, I mean, in your film, She's Not Your Type, you know, we've got someone who's very nervous about introducing their new girlfriend to their friends. Tell me, I had to wonder, how true or based on reality was his girlfriend or that experience?
Look, nothing that crazy, but I have often been like the third wheel, a bit nervous about my friends being a new girlfriend. I have been in that position. Thankfully, I've never had, all guys claim they have a crazy ex-girlfriend or something. Hopefully no one has anyone this crazy there, so yeah.
But it's clear that She's Not Your Type was the audience's type. So congratulations again to all of you for your fantastic wins.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much.
Next up, I want to hear more about your award-winning films from the 2018 Made in the West Film Festival. Stick around. We'll be back after the break.
Join us on the red carpet at Event Cinemas Liverpool and see your film on the big screen. Made in the West 2019 is now open for submissions. Prizes for the Best in the West, the Best Student Film and the Audience Choice Award. Short films under 15 minutes, any genre is welcome. Go to madeinthewest.com.au to check out this year's prizes and submit your film.
Your film looks ready for the big screen. Now it's time to turn up the volume. Bunk Bed Beats offer cutting-edge composition, sound design, ADR, mixing and mastering. Check out our sound at bunkbedbeats.com.
We're back. Thanks for joining us on Made in the West TV. I'm Sunil Badami and we're here with the winners of the 2018 Made in the West Film Festival, Andrew Lee, David Hoey and Matthew C Vella, and we're talking about their award-winning films. Now, Andrew, you wrote and directed Melon Grab. Tell us how it came about.
Kind of came out of a story where I actually drowned and had a cardiac arrest while swimming.
Okay, sorry. Let's go back to that.
Basically, I was revived, and when I was revived, I was in a 5-day coma, and then 3 months of rehab. And the first time I went out of the hospital was with my best friend, who was by my bedside the whole time. We just went surfing, and we didn't talk about what happened or that I basically died. We just surfed while the sun went down, and it was a really romantic kind of experience. And he didn't say a single word. He only said maybe one line about what happened, and it just felt like that day in the afternoon was resolved. And it was just this very special moment that I had with him, and he's my best friend. So I kind of wanted to translate that feeling, how a friend can do that to you through surfing. So it was originally meant to be a surf film, but then I turned it into skateboarding because I still at the time I still had issues going back into the water and just kind of dealing with that. That's the genesis of the film.
I mean, it is so beautiful and so still and so poignant, this relationship between two mates. Mm-hmm. What really struck me was the great author Eric Maria Remarque writing in All Quiet on the Western Front that he and his comrades enjoyed an intimacy closer than lovers. And we talk about bromances and stuff like that. Is there anything, how does that happen, that friendship between men that seems to be so close when so many men don't seem to have friendships like that?
I just feel like when we're young at that certain age, we don't have any judgments on the type of friendships that we make. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's just a real pure friendship. And there's no sexuality at that point. There's no consciousness of, where I love you, you're the same, you're a man as well. I kind of wanted to encapsulate that kind of friendship, that there is no judgment on two men loving each other. Yeah. So
what was it like being a filmmaker from the West, working with Screen Australia?
It was a real, game changer for me because it was my first film outside of film school, and it was the first time I got funded. So it was an immense amount of great support from them, and the film couldn't be made without their support. So it was a big game changer for me in terms of career progression. Yeah.
What about you, David? I mean, I'm a little bit wary to ask where you got the inspiration for your very moving film, Milo.
No, it was purely an adaptation of an original idea I had. So the whole idea for going to the Snowy Mountains on this road trip basically just came from me just wanting to make a story about friendship in a different way. So this is more of kind of a speculation of the afterlife. But I mean, none of us really have a very clear idea of what happens there or how a friendship would translate between the living and the passed on. I mean, just that confusion just made me go, all right, I'm just going to have a bit of fun with it. And so I put this guy's late friend in a Milo tin, and I mean, the film really just came about because I wanted to make a film in this break, but the crew that I usually work with are away. So I was just thinking, well, what can we do with just one actor, one cinematographer, one everything, and we just packed up a car, and I had this original idea where these two friends go on a road trip, and I adapted that into kind of the same story except with this Milo can, and I just wanted to explore friendship in in a way that was speculating on something a little bit bigger.
It's so interesting though, because it doesn't feel like a one-hander where it's just an actor and a Milo tin.
Yeah.
What did you learn in the process of making the film that you might take to other projects or your next project?
Well, that's cool that you noticed that, because it must have felt like more because it just became really special to us. I mean, when you are going on a road trip with an actor who's also a really good friend of yours, and Nick's a great creative, and he had some fantastic input for the character. When you're kind of traveling with the characters and living those lives, it kind of just feeds into the narrative. And what I learnt was that, you really got to love your characters, you got to love your story, because that's going to come out on screen. So I think going forward, even if I had a script before I even shot it, I just want to make sure, do I love these characters? Do I care for the characters? Because that shows on screen to an audience.
And of course, Nick won Best Actor at the festival.
Yeah.
In terms of his being able to move so seamlessly between poignancy and humour, that was really amazing.
Yeah, credit to him. He's crazy at it. Yeah, he's really good.
Now, speaking of craziness, Matt, your film, She's Not Your Type, was a hit with the crowd on the night. Why do you think it did resonate so much with the audience?
Your guess is as good as mine, honestly, because I was a bit scared going in that people might be like, it's a film festival, we're sophisticated and prestigious, and this arguably is a bit of a lowbrow sort of comedy film, but I'm inspired by blockbuster films. I'm not the type of artsy filmmaker who tries to impress other filmmakers. I'm trying to connect with Joe Blow from down the road, working at Seven Hills, who just got a coffee from the local cafe. I'm not trying to connect with I don't know, maybe your typical Sundance audience or something. So for me, my last film was a gritty action film inspired by the big Hollywood blockbusters. This comedy, I was really inspired by the ones I'm seeing in the cinema right now, starring guys like Seth Rogen and Will Ferrell and stuff. And a lot of that stuff is really about how surreal can we make this? Can we take this to the next level? Can we push it? So when I was writing this film, I was just like, well, what's something crazy we can do? And on set, it was the same thing. I would go to people like, how can we make this joke funny? And the sound guy would pitch in, camera guy would pitch in, as well as the actors too. So if people found it funny, it's because we found it funny, because we were just trying to find what we could do to take each joke to the next point.
So if everyone on crew found the jokes funny, why were you so nervous when the film came up to be screened?
You know what? I guess I'm my own worst enemy. I'm all in my head. And one thing I learned, especially with comedy, it's not easy to edit. It's a real challenge. And during post-production, I just kept second-guessing myself, because when we would do a joke, we wouldn't do just one joke. We did 20 different variants. And so picking which one's funnier, oh, well, she rotated her head 2 degrees to the right this time. Those little things, when you try and create science out of comedy, it really does take away the fun. But having it in front of an audience, it's really reminded me why I love the film so much in the first place. And it was such a payoff for me, and it was almost like a spiritual experience, because it's just this reassurance of, Matt, you're doing good stuff, man, and keep at it. And yeah, so this is such a great life-changing moment for me.
I mean, you say you don't want to make movies that'll impress other filmmakers, but there was a lot of craft in She's Not Your Type. I mean,
yes.
How important is cinematic technique for you?
Oh, so much. And all my lessons that I've learnt throughout the years, they come to it as well. I guess I'm more I'm trying to impress the average audience viewer than your typical arts creative. But while it doesn't look like an ambitious film, it's mostly 4 people sitting around a table. Behind the scenes, I was trying all sorts of new stuff. My first time working with improv, we did a lot of ad-libs. We shot as a multicam, which I'd never done before, completely changed the technical process. And even I acted for the first time in a scene, which was just so unique and different for me. I also directed a child, which I'd never done before. So it's all about pushing myself to the next limit or so. So yeah, while it may not look too crazy, behind the scenes, the technical stuff for me was very new and experimental for me, if that makes sense.
Thanks so much for telling us all about your wonderful films, guys.
No worries.
Thanks.
Now, next up, we're going to talk about the filmmaking scene in Western Sydney and why it's producing some of the best young talent in the country. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
Made in the West Film Festival is back in Western Sydney for 2019 with local stars and filmmakers on the red carpet. Join Western Sydney VIPs for a night of short films on the big screen. Vote for your favourite film and find out who will be crowned Best in the West. Saturday night, 23rd of November at Event Cinemas Liverpool. See you there.
So when it comes to an event like Made in the West Film Festival, how important is an event like this to local filmmakers? And how does the festival encourage you to keep making films?
I could argue that it is the main driver, is one of the main motivators for me. Like I said earlier, Made in the West is like, it's one of my favorite times of the year. I go a lot of times as a fan, not always as a contestant. And it's given me a platform, it's given a lot of people a platform to show their work. It also gives me a deadline to get things done by, because otherwise I just keep editing and editing. And yeah, it was a seed that was planted that's birthed a community, and we're really seeing the rise of it now. And hey, if Western Sydney ever becomes the next Hollywood, I'm going to be saying thank you to Made in the West, that's for sure.
Well, for me, I think film festivals are the platform for short filmmakers, and for short films, for us, it's the training ground, and you know, it doesn't get it doesn't get audiences that much outside of film festivals, before you put it online. But also, I just remember the very first film festival that I screened my film at. Was really not that great, but it was such a niche film festival that it found an audience, and that film was screened and it was very rough around the edges, but it allowed me to have a criteria eligibility to get into film school, because I had to have one film screened publicly. And I think that's really important for emerging filmmakers or really young filmmakers to have a platform where they can find audiences, no matter how big or small, because it is the starting, it is the cultivation places for us as filmmakers. And from film school, then I got funding from Screen Australia, so it's just kind of like being stepping stones. And I think Made in the West Film Festival is a great example for Western filmmakers to have that little platform to say, hey, I've got a film screened, I'm going to do better on the next one, I need a bit more money on the next one. But it's just that encouragement that I think is essential for filmmakers in this area.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, also just knowing that there's a whole filmmaking community in your area is so important as well. And it's a really special night when just coming into the festival was crazy, because I was like, oh, my film's going to be put up on this big screen. But then you get there and you're walking on this red carpet full of people who live just around the corner from you that are doing all this crazy stuff. And it just really goes to show that like having platforms like this, not only to share your work and get audience feedback and audience engagement, but also events where you can come together as a fairly geographically niche community to meet people who are like-minded. That's important for collaboration, and as we were saying before, having different perspectives when creating a script or creating a film is really important. So
I'm just going to throw in as well before I forget to mention it. Just the fact that this exists, it's opened up many doors and opportunities for myself, and sure you guys as well. Like I won the Best Student Award in 2016, and that just put me on like an accelerated path. Since then, that same film's played and won awards internationally. I went to America. We had a really great run there, and I feel like a lot of it's thanks to Made in the West, because they were the guys who gave me the first chance, you know? That we want to support local filmmakers, and, you know, the buzz built out of there. Also, like, what I've learnt from this year, comedy films are just so much better seen with an audience. And having a screening at Made in the West is such a great place to, like, show it off for the first time.
I mean, we've talked about the impact and the importance for local Western Sydney filmmakers like yourselves, but how important do you think Made in the West is for the community itself, for Western Sydney audiences? David?
Well, it's important that people see material that relates to them and is familiar to their experience. I mean, that's probably the reason why people in our area love Fat Pizza so much and stuff like that, you know. That's probably a really good example of one community's experience and turning that into comedy. Having material like that, especially growing up, when I saw Fat Pizza the first time, I thought it was the greatest thing that ever. I just thought it was amazing, because like you have everything going on in America, Anchorman, Step Brothers, everything like that, but having a comedy that comes from home and having just stories in general that feel like they're just around the corner from you, it's really important so that certain communities maybe don't feel alone, or people have like shared experiences. At the end of the day, having a shared experience and having relatable stories can bring a whole community together. So it's important that, you know, if we have that on screen, people from this area can come together and share their own stories of, I don't know.
It's so true, man.
Like
it's so true.
Yeah.
Just to top it off, I know I've already touched on it, but like the other elements, like the networking, like you meet so many cool people who just like the same stuff you do, and they do it, and then it's like, no way, you live down the street. Like that's crazy.
For me, I think it's like film festivals or any cultural event with performing arts, or any event that brings people together, gives a soul to the area. And it celebrates it through, you know, our human experience and our sorrows that reflect within the area. So I think it's beyond the cultural asset. It's also just makes the area a nice place to live. You know, to go down the road and watch a film festival about, you know, an Indian family or a Macedonian family, and meeting other Macedonians there. Like I feel like that is the enriching kind of requirement for an area to have a cultural heart and celebration of performance.
I have to ask you though, especially you, Matt,
There we go.
speaking of specific audiences, did your strict Maltese parents come to the festival, and what did they think of She's Not Your Type?
So I showed an early cut to my mum, and she's like, well, it's not my type of humour, but like when my parents were there in the audience and I saw the crowd react, it really helped me because it helped give them an understanding that people do like this stuff. My parents, like, they don't really understand what I do sometimes. I remember showing one of my first films to my dad, and he's like, so you make the movie? I'm like, no, Dad, I directed it and I wrote, but you didn't touch the camera. I'm like, oh God, Dad. But it's so great though that, like, because we have this community around, it does give them context, which is great.
That's like so interesting as well, how culture works and why it's important to like see how people from the same background can also have like different I guess systems of like encouragement when it comes to film, because with my family, my grandparents came to this country with basically nothing. They came on a boat, and you know, by having nothing, they were kind of encouraged to like carve their own path. So like, whilst my grandpa, he's like, why is there a bloody tin talking? You know, like he gets confused by that. But he also understands that like, if this is what I want to do and this is connecting with people and this is a passion of mine, then it's totally feasible to do and it's an achievable dream. So having that ambition and stuff like that is part of my background and different backgrounds like that. I mean, it's cool to see how people who come from the same place have a different sort of system at home and stuff. Yeah.
You've all talked about how much winning these awards has impacted on you and your careers, and I'm sure They will be very glittering and you'll be collecting many more awards in the future. But what would you say to that young kid at home right now wanting to tell a story and not knowing where to go? What would you say to that young kid as they're thinking about perhaps making something they might show to their friends and families and neighbours and community at a festival like Made in the West?
My biggest thing would be like, be a part of the community. Don't say you're a filmmaker and don't make films. Don't say you're a filmmaker and don't hang out with other filmmakers. The amount of times I've spoken to people like, hey, you going to this film festival? No, I don't have a film in it. Go, meet new people, make new friends. Like don't network to make colleagues, make friends, because then you have your support network. Do that. And also just make what you want to make.
Yeah.
Like I remember once, one of my first films I ever made, the teacher showed it to class as a bad example of a film to not make because it was too ambitious for a student film. But I'm like, screw that. Like, go nuts. Do what makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, we're not doing this for the award. We shouldn't be doing this for the awards and prestige or whatever. Like, do it because like this is your way to express yourself and be creative.
Yeah, starting out, it's pretty simple in like discussions like this to get really deep with it. But I think starting out should just be just having fun with it, finding what you find enjoyable from it. Because if you enjoy your own work and you enjoy your own practice and you enjoy everything about your project, then I'm sure it'll connect with an audience as well. So yeah.
Mine is, film is always a constant hustle. The entertainment industry is always a hustle, so you've got to start, if you're young and you want to do it now, you've got to start young. Find that pirate in you and just get that person to give you money, steal your auntie's couch, get your dad's car, just get everything that you can and hustle and just make it. Like that's all you got to do, because you've got to hustle. In the real world, in the professional world, it's a constant hustle. And got to be real. Just got to be real about it.
And thank you so much for being so real and making such wonderful films. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. But thanks for giving us such insight into the Made in the West Festival and the burgeoning and exciting Western Sydney film scene. All the best for you and your next projects. And congratulations again for winning the top prizes at Made in the West 2018. Thanks so much for joining us on Made in the West TV. That's all we've got time for today, but if you'd like to know more about Made in the West Film Festival and the great filmmakers that are producing such exciting films in Western Sydney right now, check out Made in the West online at their website. I'm Sunil Badami. Thanks for watching West Side.
Oh.